let's talk about where we are in the Bitcoin cycle this year, because we are nearing the end of it. I think towards the end of the year, we're going to see Bitcoin finally bottom out. So we have about 4 months left of bear action. And over the summer, volatility has kind of dried up. You can see we've been practically ranging between 58,000 and 67, and recently just touched up on that $67,000 mark. So we can go ahead and slap a resistance on there. And most likely we're going to range back down over here on the downside unless we're able to clear this. So you can clearly see right now we are in this little range. And because we still have 4 months left to go, we need to scroll onto the day chart and look for potential support here. So you see a lot of orders and a lot of consolidation. So naturally, we would have the same thing happen here on the right side. And you can see this consolidated for about 210 days. Now, we don't have 210 days. We've only been in this zone for about 58 days. And we have until the end of the year to continue doing that. So that's another 158 days. So we do come a little close, but you can see that we have the potential to go all the way down to about $50,000 on the lower side of Bitcoin's price. That's simply because that's where the support is for Bitcoin. So potentially we have another 11,000 the downside. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. It just means that's the window where price could go. And if we happen to arrive to November and price is still ranging here, I think it's more likely that we have bottomed at around 60K rather than actually going towards that $50,000 level. However, if in the next few months or weeks we see Bitcoin continue to show weakness, then obviously that $50,000 level is more likely to be tagged. But the good news is most of this bear market is almost complete. We just have a few short months left here. Now, just because we have 4 months left in Bitcoin's bear market doesn't mean there's not opportunities to trade this. We obviously have a lot of opportunity to trade this. And I like to trade Bitcoin on the 1 hour. And right now, my anticipation is that we are simply going to see Bitcoin dump simply because we have a trend line showing us resistance unless Bitcoin can get up above this soon and actually target cracking that 67,000 to go higher, anywhere between 67 to potentially 71, then I would say we're most likely heading back down to this bottom of this range at 57,000. And then Bitcoin will simply range until it's ready to break up or ready to go back down. So we're waiting for Bitcoin to do something. We're in the very boring time in Bitcoin's price action. And the alts aren't really doing much either. I mean, we can go ahead and take a look at Ethereum. It's not very different. And a bunch of different alts are also simply waiting. So you can see Ethereum, kind of the same chart as Bitcoin, not really doing much here. And then Ethereum on the day chart, if we take a look at that price action right there, we can just cancel all this and see, okay, well, Ethereum has been consolidating for a very long time. And I'm very bullish on Ethereum long term. So you can see right here, let me just turn off this indicator right about there. And you can see we've been ranging. This is a very large range. And usually this consolidates towards the upside. So I really like this price action from Ethereum. It shows that even though it's been underperforming for the past few years, it has been consolidating. And I do like consolidation on such a long time frame because it shows that the next time we move off the next cycle, the base is going to be starting from a higher price. I mean, we started at a price of $1,000 last cycle, and we only got back up to all-time highs of 2017, which you would say is not so great. But what happens is when you see gains as large as Ethereum did in a very short amount of time back here, you can see in 600 days, about 2 years, Ethereum saw growth of 23,000%. That is insane amount of growth. So obviously, we're going to have buyers and sellers swapping Ethereum, buying them, and that's going to need time to consolidate the swapping of hands. People are going to sell out and new buyers are going to step in, institutions are going to step in, holders are stepping out. So that exchange takes time. And a lot of people might have you thinking, because Ethereum hasn't been performing as well, that it's a bad asset, where I think it simply had time to consolidate and has shown strength over the years not to actually break below that $1,000 line again. In fact, it's still holding pretty strong above 1,400 currently. So long-term bullish on Ethereum. If Bitcoin were to dip down to 50K, we would potentially see Ethereum get back to that 1K line. And obviously, I think that would be a value add opportunity there. And we might see some more volatility come out of Ethereum, especially as we come out of the summer. So maybe a bounce to 2,600 and then a move down to 1,000. That could also be on the table, but I do think that's a pretty large bounce. So maybe we slowly grind down, or we actually just bottom off here, yet to be known. One thing is important to know in trading is that you don't have to be right to make money. And I know that sounds strange. How could you make money if you're not right? Well, it's a game of probabilities. You have a strategy. That strategy has a success rate. And over time, if you have an edge, you will win more than you lose. But you don't need to know what's going to happen to make money. I don't know what's going to happen here, but if I use my strategies that I've tested, back tested, and forward tested, I know that my strategy works 70% of the time. So I will no doubt have losses, but there is a parameter. For instance, I like to use the fibs to understand where price might retrace to, and then I'll use the fibs to help me find an entry and then use support levels and resistance levels to find an exit. So that's kind of what I like to do here when I'm trading these coins. And right now we can see that Ethereum has had a bit of a retrace over the weekend, and now we're looking to potentially roll back over to the downside. And that's kind of my bias right now. I think we have a bearish bias on our hands, and we might see a retrace down to about $1,600 in the next few days. Yet to be seen. But if we look at the 4-hour right now, we can see the price action slowly rolling over, and we do have the downward resistance line over here. You can see something like that. Unless we can crack above this line, I wouldn't be really bullish. But what I'm really expecting here is something like that. And then we can move on up. Of course, that's going to take some time. So I am trading this actively, and I'm using my own strategy. I mean, you can see right now, if I log into this paper trading account, just to give you an example of what's going on, you can see the current positions I have on with Bitcoin. Currently short on Bitcoin here, targeting the levels of about 61,000 simply because we have support here. You can see we've touched it twice. So we're definitely targeting that area. And I do have live trades on these as well, but I like to use paper trading just to show you guys. So that's what we're looking for over here on a Bitcoin, is simply a retrace down from the trend line to the $60,000 to $61,000 area. Same thing with Solana, although Solana has a bit of a different price action. It's not exactly following Bitcoin, and I'll show you why. You can see on 29th of June, Bitcoin bottomed out, but with Solana, the 29th of June was actually a higher high around this area, a higher high. So it bottomed out, or I shouldn't say bottomed out, it fell much harder than Bitcoin did around June. And now you can see I've got the same amount of sells here on Solana, expecting price to come down to that $70 line. And then potentially we get to break out and make moves towards the higher levels. Yet to be seen though yet, and definitely bearish bias right now. So as a whole, I'm bearish this week. I'm happy to turn bullish, but until the setup presents itself, I have no reason to flip bullish. If we were to break above the trend line, then I would have a reason to be. But a lot of coins are simply not showing that much strength. One coin that is currently showing strength and that I'm interested in longing some more is going to be Pump Fund. If we take a look at Pump Fund here, you can see it's managed to break out of this downtrend. First of all, we have a couple of lines here to draw. You can see we had a head fake towards the downside, and I actually talked about this on my Twitter account. So here you can see ages ago, I made a post about Pump Fund. It was May 25th. I talked about how there was going to be a deviation and a stop out, collect liquidity, and then we can move on up higher. And well, that was on May 25th, but the actual deviation came around June 25th. So you can see that it pretty much did what I expected it to do. Over here, you can see the inverse head and shoulders and the move up. So it's played out as expected, and we're moving on up right now. So we'll see how high we can actually move up here. But the structure does look pretty promising here with Pump Fund. I do expect a retrace at some point. You can see we've touched resistance up here. So we might get a little bit of a pullback, maybe collect some liquidity up here first before actually moving down, because there's going to be a lot of sellers right here. So maybe a pop up and then grab the liquidity to take us down to the downside. And then maybe we can trade it, but we can definitely trade it towards the short side if I see a breakdown here and actually trade it to the lower end, because we are still stuck in a range. As you can see here, we're in this tight range between 1.5 and 2.3. So if we can break out of that decisively, I think that's the opportunity, but I do think we're going to have to see it retrace before that actually ends up happening. So we have a trade to the downside from where we are currently, trade it to the downside, and then trade it back up, and then look for the breakout. So that's what we're looking for here. But remember, these things take time. I mean, I posted this a month earlier than it happened. So May 25th was the post. And like I said here, we didn't break down until almost a month later and bottomed out here. So these things definitely do take time. And the moves are there, but it's been such a slow summer and there's a lot of volatility. So I expect the market to pick back up towards the end of August and the beginning of September, when we have institutions getting off their yachts and back into the banks. And they're actively participating in this market again to show up with the volatility. So that's what we're currently waiting for here in the market. We're waiting for the money to return and for the market to come back online. But I do think we have a few months of more pain before that takes place. So let's wait and see. But for this week, I am aiming to be short on a lot of coins, and I'll go bullish if the setup presents itself. And that's as simple as I can put it right now. Obviously, it's more complicated in execution because there's a lot of things that go into it, but that's a whole nother topic for a different video. So as for now, guys, just wanted to share my thoughts on the market and my plans with the charts, and I'll update you guys next week with what happens. So if you're interested in that, stick around, subscribe, and let me know if you learned something new. So that's it, and happy trading out there.